evil. It's nothing new, but it isn't always obvious where the evil exists. But recent actions by the radical left can no longer be written off as just bad politics, okay? We have to say it. Some on the far left are just plain evil. That's just a different fight. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about all Democrats or liberals. I don't want to do to them what they do to us. But I'm talking about the radical left. They appear so void of any sense of common decency that evil's the only way to describe what they're up to, their actions or their inaction. So let's define the word evil. Here's Merriam-Webster. Morally reprehensible, the fact of suffering, misfortune, and wrongdoing. This pretty much sums it up, right? And don't forget this quote about inaction by Martin Niemöller. Folks, listen, it's easy to ignore the evil when it's not affecting you personally. But sooner or later, inaction's a choice. Choosing not to do something is, in fact, a choice. Oddly, it's the left who likes to say, silence is violence. But this isn't about politics. Again, I'm not calling all Democrats evil. But some actions on the far left are absolutely indefensible, especially when they target those who can't defend themselves. Listen, the left makes choices too. There's no other way to describe some of this stuff. It is just plain evil. Look at this one here. Eric Adams, right? Who, despite having zero scientific evidence, is trying to keep masks on kids ages 2 to 4. Take a look.
I want to comment on today's court ruling regarding the issues of 2 to 4 years old. I think it's imperative that due to the rise in cases that we're seeing, as slight as they are, our plans were to take a week to assess the numbers before removing masks for 2 to 4 years old. But of course, we're going to comply with any ruling from the judge.
How the hell do you defend that? Let me get this straight. Eric Adams wants you to mask your 2-year-old while he goes out wearing no mask and parties with the foo-foo celebrity crowd? What about all the adults who lost their jobs for refusing to get the vaccine? What about that? What about the first responders who were praised as heroes early on in the pandemic, and they were, but were then kicked to the curb when they didn't follow the approved narrative? Listen, I know this is hard to hear. It's not the easiest monologue that I've ever put together or delivered to you. But how is any of this explainable without the existence of evil? Folks, it gets worse, man. Just last week, the CDC publicly acknowledged the scientific reality of natural immunity.
We also know that in this country, because of vaccines, because of boosters, and because of protection from prior disease, infection-induced immunity, that about 95% of people in this country have some level of protection.
So now we're admitting natural immunity is real. I learned about this in kindergarten. But thousands are still without jobs, and their kids are still wrapped up like the mummies at daycare because they didn't follow the narrative. This isn't science. This is evil. You still need convincing? Here's an example of the evil the radical left is hoping you don't notice. It's hard to even talk about. So last week, police recovered 5 babies from a home in Washington, D.C. And as purely evil as having a dead baby sounds, it's hard to even say. The medical examiner has no plans, as of this point, of performing autopsies on these babies because they appear to have been aborted in accordance with D.C. law. Folks, that's sick. That's evil. Nothing else. Let me ask you this. What kind of person can conceivably defend advocating for this stuff? We have 5 babies who were never even given a shot at life because worthless loser politicians and evil, yes, evil far leftists said it was their right to kill them, all in the name of reproductive health care. Whose health care? Not the babies. And to top it off, those babies' lives aren't deemed important enough for the medical examiner to even find out what happened to them. Yeah, that's evil. You better call it as much. This isn't an isolated incident of evil either, neglecting the lives of innocent babies. California is working on a bill that would prohibit authorities from charging a mother for actions or omissions related to her pregnancy, which includes a period of time after the child has been born. Yeah, I didn't say that wrong. Let me say that again. After the child has been born. Folks, there's another word for this. Yeah, it's called evil. And of course, if you need more proof of children being ignored and exploited, just take a trip down to our southern border, which our president border czar refused to visit themselves. Defenseless children being smuggled across the border, victims of sex trafficking. And what does the radical left have to say about that? Squat, nothing. They're content to pretend it's not happening. What about the growing nationwide fentanyl problem? People are dying at alarming rates. And the radical left, again, pretending this crisis just doesn't even exist. Folks, there's no way this can be blamed on bad politics. At some point, you have to think these people are allowing these evil things to happen on purpose. What's the other explanation?